and then to help everyone to be prepared for the discussions that we will have after your submittal and before our independent grants committee meets and makes a final decision. So what we will do is, Patricia, if you want to go to the next slide. A couple of quick notes before we start is that everyone should please stay on mute, of course, until you're speaking. If you have questions as we go through this presentation, please go ahead and type them up in the chat or in the Q&A box. Yeah, I think in this case, the chat. And that way we'll have them captured. And then at the end, we will have the Q&A, and you can then ask your questions. And we will also be monitoring that chat just to make sure that all questions hopefully do get answered during this 1 hour presentation. Any additional questions that we don't get to, we will try to get to via email and send an email to everyone with that summary along with the link to this video. So with that, let's go ahead to the next slide. And just for everybody's benefit, I think I've met you all at one point or another, or look forward to meeting you if we haven't met already. But I'm Robin McGuckin, and I'm the Executive Director for P4G. So as you probably know by now, P4G works with early stage climate entrepreneurs to help them become investment ready. Concurrently, in each of our countries, we have a national level public-private platform, which we call our national platform, that works on the enabling market systems, not just for your partnerships, and they will be working with the successful applicants, but also for others in the marketplace who have similar ideas and want to be launching similar businesses. In each country, we are strategically aligned to the national priorities as laid out in the NDCs. So this means across our countries, we focus on the food loss and waste, climate smart ag, renewable energy, zero emissions transport, and water resilience. We go to the next slide. You'll see that P4G, with our partnerships, we have, of course, the commercial partner and the administrative partner. And to that team, we provide grants and technical assistance for investor readiness, working through our national platforms, the market and regulatory strengthening, also through our national platforms and P4G and the World Resources Institute. We provide a huge network to help you advance your business cases. And knowledge is a very important part of what we do. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Going to the next slide. This slide gives you a feel for the kind of network that we bring. In each of our countries, both our partner countries on the one side and our donor or funder countries on the other side, we have these national platforms. These platforms can help create connections for you within government and also throughout your green supply chain. And we are looking for those opportunities to help advance your business case, but also, very importantly, to help each of our countries understand better what they can be doing to advance businesses in your sectors as well. Continuing to the next slide. What this looks like is that on the left-hand side, we bring in additional government stakeholders, or we can bring in additional government stakeholders through our national platforms. So they can be a focal point to reach out to other climate divisions or sectoral ministries or departments, also to provincial and municipal government. And very importantly, I think for many business cases, the regulators to understand what is allowed, what is not allowed, and to look at improvements in what is allowed, as well as looking at tariffs and other regulatory reforms that can help the business model work. On the right-hand side, you see our partner country embassies, or particularly our donor country embassies, are also involved in each one of our partner countries. And then in each of these countries, the Netherlands, Denmark, and South Korea, we also have national platforms that can be of service to our partnerships, either for procuring, low cost, high reliability equipment or goods into your projects, or on the other side, buyers and sellers, which you'll see. If you click, each of our national platforms prepares annually a national platform implementation plan. And in there, they have plans for bilateral meetings with our partnerships, workshops on specific dialogues with our partnerships, and then conferences, reports, and of course, we have summits. If you just click through to the end of these boxes, you can see here what we're trying to connect across all of our networks is that enabling community from accelerators, suppliers, buyers, and very importantly, the early stage venture funds to help each of our partnerships get that next step on their journey, on their growth journey. And if you move to the next slide, as I mentioned, knowledge is very important for P4G. We are hosted by the World Resources Institute, which many of you may know is an environmental think tank. So we work together with our national platforms and our partnerships through workshops, publications, and summits to help advance the understanding of what it takes for locally led climate enterprises to succeed and the enabling marketplace in which they have to operate. Our goal is to be able to trigger new policies and regulations, and often these are just small changes in tariffs, changes in what is allowable or what is not allowable. And then, of course, our goal is to help new green enterprises such as yourselves to advance to that next step and get the investment that you need in order to succeed. So you will see a knowledge product is a requirement, and we will in the next slides go over what some of those requirements are and why you will see them in the budget and why it is important to describe your activities and ensure to budget for those mandatory activities, as well as some other budgeting tips. So with that, Patricia, I'll turn it over to you to walk our applicants through the next slides.
Thank you, Robin. Well, as you know me and you received my emails, I am the Partnership Origination Manager, so I am in charge of this selection process. Yeah, so the purpose, I will share with you what are the main things that you need to consider now that you are planning your work plan and budget. For those even that are active partnerships or existing partnerships, it's important to remember that there are some important changes for this phase. So the first thing is that all the activities that you already budget and can be changes. So when we were reviewing your proposal, we identify that maybe some of the activities that you already marked as planned are maybe not the most ideal, considering that all the activities and items needs to be aligned with the theory of change of your partnership, and the main aim is to enhance this investment readiness of your business model, accomplish the specific target, outputs and goal, improve your financial case, and facilitate the business operations. So those specific activities and tasks that you consider that will help you to follow this way are the ones that we are expecting to see in your final version of your work plan and budget. Also, an important thing is that you must consider the implementation period. All the partnership needs to start in April 2024. Even for those that already download the work plan and budget, we made some small changes that are marking the specific date of April 2024. We'll see in the moment where we're explaining the Excel template, but it's important for you to download this new version, and also we'll share with you by email with the recording link. So for these new applicants, the minimum period that you need to have budgeting will be 18 months, and the maximum will be 24 months. For those that wants to have a minor period, is not possible. So we are expecting that for this reach of the partnership and for the goals that we want to achieve are the minimum period that you require. For those applying for a second round of funding, can be only an additional of 12 months, also starting in April. And it's important also to remember, and it's marked in the template, that the final quarter of work, so we are meaning, depending if you are for 18 months or 12 months or the 24, but your final quarter needs to be equal or at least 10%. This is because one of the requirements that we have is that only that the 10% will be held until you submit your final report. So this needs to be at least 10% or can be even higher if you want it. And also something important is the balance that we are expecting. So 30% is a cost share. We'll explain, Apollonia, my colleague, will explain what is the eligible cost share, but is the minimum percentage expected is 30% and can be in grants, monetary, other monetary forms, but not in kind. And the percentage of P4G will be up to 70% for those specific activities that you will mark. What are the most common mistakes that we saw when we are reviewing these work plan and budgets? Is first, written instructions are marked all the things that you need to complete or not, and complete all the sections required. In this template, you will have this with the specific colors, what are the things that you need to write or not and complete. So please fully read everything and complete the full sections from 1 to 6. Also, there are some misunderstanding what is eligible or not is eligible related with the cost and the cost share. They will be fully explained also by Apollonia, but it's important to remember that no capital cost is allowed. What we consider as capital cost and generally consider is not equipment, supplies that could be part of your asset, but that will be fully explained in the next minutes. Also, the mandatory budget items, they are, as you saw in the guidelines, as well in the templates, we have specific activities that I will explain in my next slide of what are expecting that you are budgeting, and also is regarding the intellectual property of and what can be publicly funded, because we are a publicly funded entity, and the P4G required to be an open source. The scope and budget may be negotiated. So even if you submit your last version, doesn't mean that everything that you require or you ask for that will be, we can negotiate the prices if we see that something is over the cost of over the market cost, or not reflect the local economy pricing. Also, we reserve the right to negotiate the full proposal and the final negotiation that will be when you are awarded. So which are the work plan and budget mandatory activities? As I mentioned, is already in your guidelines and also has a specific parts in you and a specific part in your template. So there are first 4 items that are marked in the template that are mandatory activities with tight outputs and budget line items. So this needs to be, this enable system work is a specific line where we are expecting that you will deliver a policy of regulatory work of the business model to reduce your barriers. So the amount and the activities that are regarding with this work is something that needs to be clearly explained, and that will be part of your evaluation and is a requirement. The same with the knowledge product, that we're expecting that you will have a final case study and a short paper that will be explain or relate your lessons learned during the process of the P4G funding. Another important activity is investor due diligence. So this is related with an activity that is procured and funded by P4G that you can see in the section in green. So there are some activities too, the administrative audit and the commercial partner investor due diligence, that are activities that P4G will be directly procured and funded by us. So that means that you don't need to hire the firm that will be in charge of the due diligence or of the administrative audit will do that work. But the thing that you need to plan and indicate in your budget is after the investor due diligence will be run, we are expecting to have a report of recommendations. This report, and it's also as is explained in the guidelines and here, can increase or decrease the specific activities that you already plan. So the investor due diligence is making an assessment of the situation that you have. What are your aims and what are the specific activities that are required to enhance this business model or your financial model? So it's important now in your budget only to have a specific amount of all these changes that can happen and that can help to implement or deliver those due diligence recommendations. The ESG, that is another activity, is for those that doesn't have an ESG strategy or wants to improve one, there is a specific item where you also can budget for that activity. And it's because we know that in the investor environment is something very important to consider. So with that in mind, I will turn to my colleague Apollonia to explain the cost share and the rest of the presentation. Thank you. Apollonia.
Thank you, Patricia. My name is Apollonia Ochieng, and I'm the grants manager for P4G. Now, on cost share, what we've seen previously is that partnerships were giving us in-kind contribution. Please note that in this case, we do not require the cost share has to be in terms of the monetary, grants, operating capital, or another monetary match. It should not be in kind. Now, in terms of cost share, what is eligible is you can put the salary of the early stage climate business and the NGO partner, which must not be already funded by P4G. Travel costs, other non-salary expenses of commercial partners. Please note that salary expenses for non-salary expenses, so salary expenses for commercial partners are not eligible. Equipment and products are eligible. Now, when it comes to non-eligible, we have capital expenses such as land, building, and large infrastructure. These are not eligible as a cost share. Activities in non-P4G countries. So in the proposal, we have indicated the countries of P4G. So please note that anywhere we are implementing the funding should be within the P4G countries. Next, Patricia. Now, in terms of expenses, we have expenses that are not eligible. So when you're planning your budget, you need to have this in mind because it will determine what we will accept once we have finalized what we'll accept as an acceptable expense. So the eligible expenses are staff salaries, travel costs, costs that have been incurred in preparing your reports, monitoring and management of the project, external consultants, which are used in implementing the project, and service providers, communication costs, that is knowledge sharing and information dissemination are eligible costs. Now, when it comes to G&A, the costs are paid up to 7% of the total direct costs. Now, the 7% is you have to calculate it like when you're looking at your budget, you need to make sure whatever you have indicated as G&A cost has to be maximum is 7%. That is allowable. For the non-eligible costs, we have consulting fees that are above the cost rate. As Patricia has mentioned, when you submit your budget, we'll look at the market rate, and whatever cost you have submitted needs to be within the market rate. Expenses, of course, the capital expenses, that is when you've purchased land, buildings, these are not eligible expenses. when you purchase like large equipment, vehicles, these are also not eligible. Product development in the private domain, as Patricia has explained, it needs to be in the public domain for us to consider it as an eligible cost. Now, the salary and travel expenses for large commercial companies, for large commercial partners, are not eligible. So if you have a large commercial partner, we will not be able to pay this. However, the costs that have been incurred by this partnership can be presented as in-kind contribution. Direct subsidy. Direct subsidy, for example, for de-risking or fund, unless we have given a waiver on that. Next slide, Patricia. Now, partnership are expected to present a work plan and a budget. So I will share my screen. Just for us to have a feel on how the template looks like. So it is an Excel template, and it's a template that is protected. Sorry. Let me know if you can see.
No, we saw only your main desk, but
Okay.
not a specific document.
How about now?
Now we see.
Yeah, you can see.
Okay. Okay, so this is the template that you are working for your budget, your work plan, and also M&D, and also the risk assessment. As Patricia has mentioned, it's very important to go through these general instructions, because what we have realized with most partnership is the errors that we are getting is basically because of not following this, the guidelines that have been given. Now, the document is password protected, especially for the detailed budget. So you cannot add an additional column unless you get in touch with us. The columns that have been provided are for the maximum 24 months. So if you have less than that, then you can still put it. Now, it's important for us to go through this the guidance, because the guidance gives us what is expected in terms of the work plan and what is expected in terms of the budget. Just to mention, part of the information that is here, it regards to the eligible costs, it regards to the ineligible costs, which we have already discussed. Now, for the work plan, you need to know that the work plan, you have to give at least 3 sub-goals. I will just go through the work plan so that you see. The work plan is, the document has formulas, and you're only supposed to fill the blue highlighted columns or rows. Anything that has not been highlighted in blue, then you should not fill that. Anything in gray, it's a formula part. You're not supposed to fill that. It will populate automatically. So if we get into the work plan, whatever you fill here will be automatically brought to the detailed budget. So as I've mentioned, you have 3 sub-goals that you need to select. So whatever you put here as a description, then it will be automatically populated in the detailed budget. So you are only supposed, you have to have a minimum of at least 3 sub-goals. Now, on the detailed budget, we have the different sub-goals as the headers. So we have the different sub-goals, and then we have part of the mandatory activities that Patricia had mentioned. Here we have the enabling environment, knowledge, contingencies, and ESG strategy if required. So when you're filling this document, you need to fill the blue areas, which are this one, the blue highlighted areas. Please don't fill the gray areas. The gray areas are they have formulas, and they will automatically populate. Please be careful when you're filling this document that you do not interfere with the formulas. Now, just as a hint, when you're done filling your formulas, just do a check to make sure whatever you have in this column add up to the final amount that you have. That is just a check that you can do to make sure your document is in tandem. Now here we have a summary of all the things that we have mentioned above. This summary already has formulas, so it will pre-fill from the information that you have given up there. So this is the general summary based on the sub-goals. And here we have the general summary based on the subcategories, which is the admin partner, which you will notice in your budget, you have like a breakdown of the sub-goal into an admin partner salary, admin partner fringe for every section. So all your activities you should be able to show us in terms of reporting how much was spent on salaries, in terms of acceleration and engagement, how much was spent in terms of salary, and the other breakdowns. Patricia, before you look at M&D, let me look at the risk assessment. Now, for the risk assessment, Patricia has shared a document for the organizational assessment. This will help us to evaluate the risk of each company. So it's very important that you send that. The deadline was 20th November. Please ensure you send that to us and make sure you attach all the information that is required. You as a partnership are also expected to fill for us a risk assessment. This is a risk assessment form. You're supposed to tell us the risk title, what the risk that you anticipate you're going to encounter. And then you're supposed to select from here, you will select the type of risk, if it's contextual, if it's process, if it's political or legal. And then here you also need to select the likelihood of the occurrence, how you feel, if you evaluate the risk, how likely do you feel it will occur? If it's moderately, if it's unlikely, you also need to input that. And then whatever you have selected, the likelihood, you have to give an explanation as to the reason why you have selected what you have selected. And then you choose the impact of the risk. You choose the impact of the risk, if it's high, moderate, or low. Now, from the documents that you have given us and from the visits that are going to be done by our team, we are going to also fill some of the risks that you have not identified. And for us, like from the documentation you have given us, this section will be filled by us once we have your document. So thank you. And Patricia, over to you on M&D.
Thank you, Apollonia. Well, yes, the M&E indicators that you will see in this slide are based and in the P4G tariff change. So for this section, you need to the same, only fill that information in blue. We are expecting that you are filling all those indicators. If anyone is not applicable for you, it's important to write also that in the assumptions. In the assumptions, so you have the specific metric of what is your baseline now, what are you expecting to achieve during the implementation period of P4G, and what is your long-term goal. For in this column, in the column number I, is that you need to have that assumptions and calculations that you use to, for example, get the capital unlocked and target sector. And so for all those, if it's not applicable for any reason, just in the assumption, explain why it's not applicable for you. And also until the end, you have a specific space where you can add additional lines of those other indicators that you want to monitor. We will like to have more indicators if it's possible for you that will help us to have these specific metrics. So it's important, and if you have any question about that, it's also, you can reach us. So now I will share if you stop your screen to share your screen, Apollonia, I will come back with them, with the final points of the presentation. Okay, so now we saw this work plan and budget structure and M&A indicators. As I told you, we did small changes yesterday. So the latest version, the most updated version is now online in the webpage, and also we'll share the link with you by email with the recording of this. So it's important to consider this document. So which are the next steps? And it's only more like a recap for you. So the deadline to submit the full proposal that includes this work plan and budget is October 30. All the information needs to be submitted in the Airtable form that you receive by email. If you have any questions, any problem with that, like with technical problems in the submission, please contact us. And if you want to have a specific feedback or retro, you will be contact for different local P4G team to realize a due diligence in-person visits in the next days. Those due diligence in-person visits will be happening also during this month. So in that time, in the on-site visits, is also the time that you can use for clarify anything about your specific proposal. Between October 10 and November 20, we are expecting to receive your administrative partner organizational assessment. Between your yesterday and morning and today, you receive an email of me indicating the instructions for this organizational assessment. So it's an assessment that is only for the administrative partner. You need to submit the template that was attached by email and use the specific form that was indicated in the email. If someone didn't receive this information, please also contact us. In November, in the first 2 weeks of November, you will be invited to pitch. In your emails, already you have the specific dates where you need to be in the pitch. It's important to have those dates in mind. We really have a very straight agenda, and there are more people that will be participating, so the changes will be very difficult, but it's only if it's an exceptional case. We can see which is the other time available. In the following days, you will receive a meeting request with your session that was already in your email. In December, in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of December, we'll have the final decision if you are selected or not to be awarded, and we'll notify you as soon as we have this decision to be if you are successful or unsuccessful. If you have any question, please, here you have our emails and as well as Apollonia, so send us an email. And now we want to have this time for your questions and comments about this process. Anything?
Shirley, there must be some questions. Come on.
Yes.
Don't be shy.
Yes,
Please ask.
I have a question. Hi, this is Francisco from Sana Solutions. Hi, everyone. Thank you for this enlightening presentation. I was wondering if we get awarded, for instance, could we purchase some equipment, say on January 2024, so we can start using it on April when we began the execution process? Or, I don't want this to be perceived as an in-kind cost share, but given the time, we want to start working with this equipment as soon as possible, so we would prefer to purchase it on January rather than April, because otherwise we will have to wait another 3 months. Am I making myself clear with this question? Like, I don't want this to be perceived as an in-kind, but rather to be admitted as a cost share, but we would prefer to purchase it on January after we are awarded with the grant, if we are lucky.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a very good question. So equipment purchased with cost share. It does need to be purchased within the period of the grant agreement in order to count as cost share. I believe that is correct. But Apollonia or Patricia, you could kindly confirm. So I think that does make it challenging. Perhaps if some of the payments are made in January and other payments are made in during the grant period, that could count. Or if we're able to, yeah, I'm not sure we can count that. I completely understand the need, completely understand the justification, but I think just from a straight audit perspective, the expenditure has to be made during the period of the grant.
Understood. Maybe we can talk to our provider so the payment can be made at the end of something like that. That's
or part of the
wondering.
payment. Yeah, so part of it could count. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And meanwhile, we can double check that that is the case, but I'm pretty sure that that is in fact the case.
Okay. Thank you, Robin.
Good question. I know others must have questions on your mind. Please.
There is
Bernice, that's a good. Go ahead, Patricia.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat that can be there multiple outcomes related to a sub goal. I don't know if they want to explain it.
I think the answer to that question is that there can be multiple outputs per sub goal. Outcomes are typically supposed to be at a higher, more ambitious level, a little bit more removed, a little bit indirect from the work. And so really should be more like one outcome per sub goal. However, if you want to describe more, you can certainly use that space, but we really encourage you to be very succinct, very brief and clear in your responses, in your line items in each of those areas.
Yeah, and because this version is block, if you want to have more than 3 sub goals in your document, please contact us and we can send you this version like immediately without any problem.
Yeah, and in the past we have had partners who have wanted to have an increased number of activities per sub goal or increased number of sub goals. So yeah, Patricia, maybe we should just go ahead and send across an unlocked version so people can make those additions as appropriate or as needed. Right, I see there's some other questions in the chat. I see, Andrew, you have a question. When will we be informed about the in-person visits in October? Your country representative, your P4G country representative, should have reached out to you by this point, or will be reaching out to you today or tomorrow to set up these times for these visits. Bernice, I see you asked what is meant by product development in the private domain. We have had a number of partnerships developing apps or software or models that they have wanted to keep in the private domain. And because we are funded by taxpayer dollars, we do need to have all of our final everything that we fund has to be available in the public domain, meaning that if you have software, code, app code, etc., that you want to keep in the private domain, you should use a different line item funding, a different funder to cover those expenses. Hopefully that's clear. We have changed. I see the next question from Lota. We realized there was a mistake in the work plan and budget format. where we did have previously that the funding start date should be January 1, we now have this as April 1. April 1 or thereafter should be the start date. This allows time for us to, just move everything through the system that needs to be moved through the system, including through legal on both sides of the discussion. So through our own legal and grants and contracts and teams, associated teams, as well as yours on your organizations and your administrative partners organization. Let's see. Yes, you can have only 2 sub-goals. You don't have to have 3 sub-goals. You can have 2.
We have Francisco, I think, was first.
Yes, hi again. I would like to understand a little bit better the scope of the staff salary as a cost share. For instance, we intend to allocate some part of our current staff, like directly committed to this project. Is that eligible as a cost, or should it be like new people? I think it will be oversized, our team, if we hire new people to dedicate to this project. But we would definitely want some people of our current staff to be dedicated to the project that we are proposing here. So we would like to understand better the scope of staff salary as an eligible cost.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want you to have to hire new people. That is not the intention. Because it's really important that as commercial entities, especially as startups, you stay as lean as possible. So what is meant by that is really on the commercial partner side, the P4G funds can be used for staff salaries, and then the additional funding that you're receiving can also be used for staff salaries. And what you need to do is just at the bottom of the budget, the detailed budget tab, there are a couple of sections where you put in where your cost share is coming and whether that cost share is a cash, a grant, another monetary mechanism, or whether it is in kind, as in this person, and this is more from our administrative partner or NGO side, where a person may be funded for a certain kind of work and is using some of their time to contribute to this. But when it comes to the commercial partner staff, we understand that that should be covered. If that is covered in the cost share and it's clearly shown in that section, let's see, I'm just going down to the section. Section 5, the list of financial contributors should you can explain there that is where that staff person is covered.
Oh, okay, so if I understand correctly, so this staff salary part will be only for the NGO, but not the commercial partner?
So the commercial part, so the salaries can count as long as you are getting essentially a cash instrument for those salaries. So if you can show that, yeah. So if you can show that you've got, the actual funding for that staff salary, then it can count as cost share.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Jed, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. So my question's mostly around if we're trying to instigate regulatory change, obviously that may take longer than the funding period. So how do we kind of account for that as, I guess, an outcome and also kind of as a measured impact if, it's still something that's in process by the end of the funding period? Absolutely.
That's a great question. So we recognize, of course, that certain types of policy and regulatory change can take a long time and may not be completed within the period of the grant. And that's okay. That can be indicated. and you can, in your write-up, just indicate that the activities are going to be undertaken as part of this grant, but may in fact take longer than the grant period to complete, or to have the desired outcome in the marketplace, which is that regulation or policy, tariff, et cetera, is changed. So just to indicate that. And what we really want to see is that you have a couple of deliverables or outputs there that you think can lead to that outcome. And that's where I was saying that, your outputs are those really tangible things that you're doing. The outcome is sort of a step removed, an indirect. You can prepare analyses, you can have consultations. That doesn't mean that you'll get the change, but at least you've had those outputs. And hopefully the idea, of course, is working with other organizations like ours in the sector collectively that can lead to some of those outcomes. Okay. Next question.
I have a question if I can. What is the possibility to capture past activity? So looking at this regulatory change, the company that we're working with is already in process working with government on changes. Can we capture some of that historical work? That's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be great for you to include that in your write-up so we understand that background. And that's really important. And here is where we get to a little bit of the difference between the commercial partner and the NGO partner, and where, depending, there can be very complementary roles. Now, in a number of cases, we've seen the commercial partner, has the team that is already working on those regulatory changes, and that can be explained, and that's fantastic. In some cases, we have commercial partners where they acknowledge there's a regulatory issue, but they haven't had the capacity or the budget to hire somebody or to address it. And that's where maybe the NGO is coming in and providing that support. And in either case, we do want to understand what the background is, what the work is that has been done, and very importantly, the therefore, what are the next steps?
Okay.
And those are the next steps that, of course, should be budgeted in this.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I do see the questions in the chat. Lotta, it looks like you have a very good question there, and that'll take a minute for somebody to track down those rows and just see what the differences are. So let us do that, and we might even have to get back to you after this. And then Stefan, yeah, so it's a good question. What exactly does it mean to have it publicly available? We are not posting these things on our website. It's more, I think, a case of we have to make it available if requested. We have not faced that situation, so just to be quite honest, we haven't had to deal with what that really would mean. And we can do that, a little bit of research and get back to you, but that's why we also provide the guidance to try to keep that in the cost share budget. Other questions? Okay, well, we do want to keep this an ongoing discussion with you, with each of you. So if you have questions, please reach out to us. As mentioned, your P4G country representative should be in touch with you, if they have not been already, to schedule an on-site visit. And to get to the question on M&E, we have had partnerships in the past that have been looking specifically to unlock or realize a Series A or even a pre-Series A round of funding for their commercial partner. We have also had partnerships that are looking to unlock greater amounts of funding for the target sector, not just for the commercial partner. And so that is where the capital unlocked for the target sector is different from the total funding and investment. So that's where row 19, capital unlocked for the target sector, may be a much bigger number than the row 22, total funding and investment that you are seeking. And then row 29, if I'm just trying to look here, row 29. That should be the amount. Yeah, the amount that you've already. Oh, yeah. So that's tracking the amount over time. Okay. So just get back to, we'll just clarify this in the spreadsheet. Apologies. And thank you for pointing these things out, because as you all probably know, P4G also is a lean organization. So sometimes there are things that we miss. So we appreciate you bringing up these questions so that we can provide that clarification, because we do want this to be as clear as possible for each of you as you go through this application process. So let us take a look at that today. We'll provide a little bit clearer explanation in the worksheet, and then we'll send that worksheet unlocked to all of you, so that you have that going forward. And then you can add your sub goals if you have additional sub goals. You can also delete, if you have fewer sub goals, you can delete that space in the worksheet and have it be right sized for your partnership. Okay. Yep, we will do a better job. We'll explain that one as well, and just come up with a better phrasing for that, Francisco, for the number of times. Yeah. All right. Questions?
So I think also as final messages, it's important to keep in mind the deadlines. So we really need to follow those, because we want to have the final decision in December. So it's important that you submit information on time. Even if you submit it before, maybe it will give us the chance to ask you for any clarification if it's needed. So keep in mind those late deadlines. Keep be tracking your email, because for those that doesn't have been set already the on-site visits, you will receive an email of the local team of P4G to set this on-site visit. Any question that you will have, we are here. Also, yeah, it's difficult for us, maybe for Apollonia, Robin, and me to have one-to-one meetings, because we are working in different things related with this process. But sometimes that's why we are quite trying to reply of the emails. But in every email is also CC the investor team that is based in your region, as well as this local person of the team. So reach them to have any further clarification, and maybe use this time for the on-site visit for those one-to-one meetings to have a specific time for you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Best of luck preparing your proposals. We will update the work plan in Excel. Thanks so much for all the feedback on that. And we will then post that at the link and let you know for sure when that update is. It should be later today because we know you're all eager to get going. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will be talking to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, buddy.